each day a new beginning, another opportunity to become all you are created to be. There is a way. And now our host, the Reverend Dale Batesole, invites you to join him in making this the best day of your life.
Hello, friends. Yesterday we began a unique two-part series in our programming. We have asked you, our viewers, to be involved in our ministry by submitting questions that could be answered by a panel. Well, our distinguished panel will answer some of those questions today. The panel consists of, on my immediate left, Dr. Gregory Penn, on his left, Dr. Margaret Stevens, and on Dr. Margaret Stevens' left is Mr. John Neendorf. Welcome back to There Is a Way.
Thank you.
We're excited about our program yesterday, and we are also excited about doing another one today.
So are we.
Yeah.
You're good. I'm
Yes.
glad.
It's fun.
All right.
Yes.
I should tell our viewers that our panelists are informed in general areas about our discussion, but they have not been told the specific questions that would be presented to them on this program today. Their answers will be spontaneous from their minds and their hearts, but we will not attempt to give you absolute or pat answers to any of these questions. We are trusting that you will look within yourself and contact the inner teacher in you for the right and perfect answers for you to any questions you're entertaining in your mind and heart right now. Well, let's begin our questioning. This is from a viewer who says, in the last 2 years, I've grown so very much spiritually and in self-esteem. My husband has seen the change, but is very resistant to understand what is helping me. It has become very difficult to communicate. What can I do to bring us closer together? Margaret?
I'd like to answer that question. I am married to a man, as you know, who is not very churchy, but he's very spiritual. And I've discovered that spirituality is not necessarily church membership and attendance at classes and that sort of thing that we think about as more formal spiritual training. But I would recommend to this viewer that she persist in her pursuit, that she continue to grow spiritually, and she will find that whatever differences there are between her and her husband can be more easily bridged and resolved and harmonized as she grows spiritually. And she will begin to see that her husband is where he belongs by right of consciousness. He's evolving at his own speed, his own rate, and she will learn to love him in a different, a deeper way, and again, perhaps in a more universal way. And it can be a great opportunity in her life to practice some of the things that she's learning and experiencing herself.
Good. Greg?
One of the great lessons of love, especially in a marital relationship, is what reward have I if I only love those who love me? And it's easy to love someone who we have a lot in common with, but as one mate begins to grow beyond maybe another mate's current understanding, the one who is growing in love must be tolerant. And tolerance to me is the mark of great love. So I would say to this viewer, be tolerant, be loving, be compassionate, and seek to communicate on the deepest, most sincere level that you possibly can.
This next question now relates to a question that we discussed on our last program. But I'm certain that many people will be at one with this question. How can one overcome the feeling of being removed from God? The conviction that He is on high and unattainable to a mere human.
That goes back to the old I'm a worm of the dust sin complex. And this is definitely not something that I believe in my life. God is very obtainable. And as we talked about in our last broadcast, Jesus never said that a person was unworthy of the presence of God or to achieve a sense of his own spirituality or demonstration of God. He said that God was in all persons living within as the kingdom of heaven. One of the basic things that we must free ourselves of if we are to find God's presence within is the fear, the guilt, and the rejection that we have of ourselves. It's called self-love, self-esteem, self-acceptance as a spiritual being. Not necessarily, and definitely not, I should say, ego glorification, but accepting ourselves as an expression of God. never feeling that God makes judgments on us as though we were to make a judgment on another person. I think people who find it difficult to believe that God lives within them are individuals who have made harsh judgments upon themselves and other people. They're very judgmental.
Margaret?
I often wonder how people can accept the statement in the Bible that we're made in the image and likeness of God and still feel the worm in the dust attitude that Greg referred to. I think for me, the way to feel the presence of God is to think about the example. We have the example in Jesus Christ, in other great souls who have lived. We emulate or we seek to live as they lived, the principles and the values and the teachings that they espoused and that they lived by. And as we do this, we are expressing and living out the qualities that we attribute to God. And so the more loving we are, the more compassionate, the more gentle, the more understanding. All of these qualities are God qualities. And the more we live by these values and these qualities, the more we are in tune and in harmony, and then we feel the presence.
John?
I agree with all that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right. Here's a question that I trust you'll enjoy. Why do so many far advanced and fine spiritual leaders resort to eyeglasses? John?
Because they need him to see.
Exactly.
We are people, and I think the public has this false concept of elevating us. And the most dangerous thing you do, no matter how beautiful or how much you love your minister, is to please remember his feet are on the ground, and he is a person or she is a person who has needs and is seeking to teach what they need to know and understand. And you do a tremendous disservice to yourself and to your minister by making them a god.
There was a wonderful leader who shall be nameless, but she would be known to every metaphysical person, I think. And she didn't wear glasses, but she had a bandage on her knee one day, or on her ankle one day, when she walked into a New Thought, an INTA Congress, and she said, the woman at the book counter said to her, "Oh, I'm so disappointed. You are a truth teacher, and you have your ankle bandaged. Now, how do you explain that?" And this darling lady drew herself up to her full 5 feet, and she said, "Madam, I do not wear eyeglasses, and I have all my own teeth. Can you say the same thing?" her attitude was, "Allow me some human frailty, you know. I don't have the problems you have, but I have my own."
John?
What seems to be true is that there's no great teacher who has ever been able to avoid the personality and body development stage of life, because as long as they're in a body, they have to go through growth. As long as they are expressing through a personality, they have to use a certain language. They have to communicate in a way that can express to people. And these vehicles may often carry with them certain things that the teachers themselves can work out. For a highly advanced, it's always possible to say, how could a great guy like Jesus be crucified? Well, the crucifixion is inherent to the whole meaning of what went on there. It has deep symbolic meaning to us. And I think it's a little bit short-sighted to look at something that's happening to somebody else and judge them and say, if they're so high and wonderful, why is this funny thing happening?
Yes, Margaret?
Dale, it's also true, not just in a physical sense, but when ministers and spiritual leaders have human problems, relationship problems, and there are a lot of relationship problems in our field, as you know, in every field. And here again, people are so inclined to judge and to say, if I knew what you knew, I wouldn't be going through what you're going through. But I think we have a marvelous opportunity here. I often say it's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with what happens to us. So when I have a problem, I realize that the problem is for my good and my growth, and my concern is how to get through it graciously and lovingly and extract the good from it.
Good. All right, next question. I do not pray enough on a regular basis, and sometimes am in fact unwilling to pray until I hurt or am upset. Can you give me some assistance in getting on the right track? John?
I think the question is self-answering.
Yes.
If the person has discovered a form of behavior of which the person is critical or feels that it's not working, then what that is, it's your own mind saying, if this isn't working, try something else. It's like standing on a tack and asking somebody to help you with your problem of standing on a tack. You've defined the problem. Now what you got to do is move your foot.
I think that we don't suffer enough, and until we suffer enough, we don't learn. And I think that suffering is a legitimate way of growing spiritually. No one can urge this person or mollycoddle them into the power of meditation or prayer. So I would say to this viewer, until you are done suffering and you've had enough, you will continue to find these things in your life. Just let it be. Learn from them, and when you find another way, a way that is more important, you will go to it. I don't think I want to play as a minister. I would never play parent with that person and say, now you must pray every day and stand around them like a mother would to a child. I would just say, learn from your mistakes, understand the source of them, and when it becomes vital for you to gain an answer, you will be naturally drawn into prayer.
Margaret?
Perhaps the word prayer is what is confusing this person. Prayer, Emerson said, is the soliloquy of a beholding and jubilant soul. And often I am praying, but not conscious of formal prayer. And I think that the individual can perhaps feel in the presence, or if one does feel in the presence of God, and feel the zest for life and the love for life. It need not be a formal prayer always.
True. Yes.
I'd like to, she brings up a can of worms that I like, that she brought up, and that is this, and she makes a beautiful point. Prayer is not what I say. It's not a formal petition. Ladies and gentlemen, everything you do is a prayer. Everything, every thought, every attitude, every feeling, that is a prayer. This person, as Margaret's saying, this formal prayer bit, well, is nothing. It's what my heart feels, what my mind concentrates on, what my emotions play with, that is our prayer. So this person is praying all the time. Nevertheless.
John?
I feel obligated to say something.
Yes, please do.
You better.
I first was introduced to meditation in 1968, and in the past 3 months, my meditation has deepened incredibly because I'm able to deepen it, and I'm willing to deepen it, and the environment is there in my life which allows me to. So it's again a matter of relationship of oneself to one's environment, not getting too pushy with yourself. A person just beginning meditation can't sit down for an hour and not move and get into deep meditation. Doing it for 5 minutes may suffice, and it may be perfectly appropriate.
Good. It's time for our break, and then we're coming back with more questions. Isn't this fun?
Yeah.
Just great.
Wonderful.
Friends, will you please listen carefully to this message? It's vitally important to our program. Therefore, we trust it's important to you. All right, next question. If someone passes on without reconciliation, can this hold both parties back? And if so, what can be done?
Are you saying that they both passed on, or one is left and the other's gone on?
I am assuming that one has passed on and the other's left. If someone passes on without reconciliation, can this hold both parties back? And if so, what can one do?
The key for me in this situation is to understand that death is no different than life, and what I achieve in the now is very important. If I have a difference with someone who has passed on, I find it helpful for me to communicate to them, to give them either my apologies, my reconciliation, but to treat them in their eternal self, and for me to loose and let myself go from that relationship in the most loving, compassionate, and understanding way, and to realize that that particular person played a definite role in my spiritual unfoldment, and to give thanks that they came into my life. We cannot be held back in our spiritual progress unless we choose to hold ourselves back due to hostility or resentment or anger. And I might say this, that at the moment of a person's death, they can be released from any negativity they've ever done in their life simply by a moment of forgiveness and realization of themselves in love.
I agree with Greg, and sometimes people say, I don't think I can do anything for my loved one, and this is often a cause of a great deal of grief and guilt on the part of those who are left. And I would recommend or suggest that the individual who is left begin to think of this person, as Greg said, as alive and well and strong and with greater insight now, greater understanding, and definitely open to any innovative move on my part or on the part of the one left. And to pray for that person in love and to release the individual to a new experience. We believe that, many of us believe that we have the power to hold people through grief and through lack of reconciliation. And if we really love a person and want the best for that individual, we will release him or her totally to the new life, and then we will go free too. And as Greg said, we have to forgive ourselves and to forgive that individual and to continue to pray, not out of a sense of fear for what's happening to them, but just a joyous, thankful release into the new experience. And then they can get on with their new life free of any encumbrance or any lack of wholeness.
John, would you like to add something to that?
Just real briefly that I think it's an extremely complicated issue, and it can be answered at a number of levels. But as with any relationship, as we were discussing in the last program, as with any relationship that ends, I think it's real important that the person who's left behind, as it were, have an opportunity to fully experience and express their feelings about it, because those feelings, if they're not allowed to come up and be expressed, will stay in your body and make you sick.
Mm-hmm. All right. Here's a question that might seem a bit strange for me to be asking you, but I would like your answers, because you hear about our program in many ways that I or our staff are not able to hear about it. And the question is, has There Is a Way had much opposition, active, and criticism? I'm not sure about that word. Has There Is a Way had much opposition, active, and criticism, and from whom? I think it's a wonderful educational program.
Oh, I've not heard one word of criticism, not one word. I've only heard from people whose lives have been changed and blessed and enriched. I'm not aware of any opposition. If there is any, I think it would be from perhaps individuals who would like to be doing what you're doing. Because we all would like to be doing what you're doing, Dale. And I think any opposition is simply sort of sour grapes, but I haven't heard very much of it.
Greg?
I think that there are, yes, I have heard things that some of the, and I'll only base it from my point of view, things that I have offered to this program have been a bit controversial, but you have to consider the source. And some of the things that would come out of me would be definitely different than out of someone else. Mm-hmm. I do not apologize for that. I see my life and truth the way it is, and I am blessed to have the opportunity of sharing it. And my words are not for everyone. They are not for everyone. And I want to preface that by saying also, they are not the ultimate. They are not an absolute. They are a part of the path.
Bless you. John?
I think it's a great show. I don't know anybody who doesn't like it.
All right, good.
Sure.
Your answers interest me, and I am certain they will interest the viewers, because so many times we only hear the good things about our program.
We can make up something bad if you want. We can all huddle here together and figure something out.
But we hear from people who are richly blessed by the program.
Dale, I wanted to say that many people have said to me that they watch similar programs. There isn't anything exactly like it, but they watch other programs of this nature, and this is the only one that really gives them the help from day to day. This is the one that offers the how-to. This is the one that meets the needs. It doesn't preach. It doesn't tell you how you ought to be. It offers you an alternate path. It gives you options. It leaves the individual open and free to make choices.
Good. Thanks for your answers. Here's a question that is asked in various ways by a number of our viewers. I seem unwilling to let God take charge day by day. Could this self-will be the result of too much positive thinking and not enough prayer, or what?
Oh, yes. Who is this viewer? Yes, I think there is a tendency for motivational speakers, etc., to give you the impression that you know what's better for you than your Heavenly Father, who knows what is best for us. And whoever said this has tremendous insight into themselves. I would think the highest form of prayer is a submission, like Jesus gave to us in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he said, Father, not my will, which wants to get out of this, be done, but thy will be done. And that's the highest essence of life, the highest state of prayer. And whoever made that question, God bless you. It could be very true.
My experience is that the kinds of ideas we talk about here operate on two levels. One is that of mental programming, and the other one is of spiritual surrender. And you can't really spiritually surrender very well until you have your mind under control. And so the mental control is absolutely necessary, but there's a time at which you need to release all the positive thinking, all the efforting, all the straining to wipe out negatives, and let God be there, or acknowledge the presence of God where the problem appears to be. That latter way of doing it is real powerful. You remove yourself from the struggle by saying, I don't have to pit positive thoughts against negative thoughts anymore. I can acknowledge that the fullness of God will express where this problem appears to be, and whatever happens will be the best for me.
The highest good will express through me because I am that good.
Sure.
I am as God that good. Not, I think people go into their prayer life as though it is they're ordering off a menu.
But we only have about a minute and a half. May we touch on this next question? Any help you can give me on giving up the habit of smoking would be appreciated. I don't want to set our smokers apart, but let's say any undesirable habit. Any help you can give me in giving up any undesirable habit would be appreciated.
When you've had enough and it no longer serves a purpose in you, you will quit.
Margaret?
Speaking directly to the individual, I agree with Greg, but I also realize that it calls for great tolerance and understanding on the part of those who are around, and I would not look to any outer means, any coercion from outside to get me to quit any of these habits. I would look within and find what prompts the need, or what's the hunger, what's the need that needs to be filled, and how am I meeting that need through this particular habit. Once that need is filled on another level, the habit no longer is necessary.
John?
I'll say this real directly to the people that are watching. I smoked for 12 years and tried to quit thousands of times. One day I did quit, never had a pang, never had an urge for another cigarette, and that's been 14 or 15 years ago. I characterize it as a healing. So the comment I want to make is that it is possible to quit smoking without a sense of horrible struggle. It's possible to be healed, just to put them down and not pick them up anymore. I have that experience. I know that it's possible.
Good. Have you enjoyed this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's
Delight.
wonderful.
Thank you. I'm
Thank
just
you.
so pleased that you would come and share in this delightful experience.
We wish we had time for all the questions.
I wish we did too. Well, as I said earlier, we certainly will get a positive response from our viewers, and we'll have more panel programs like this.
Good.
But thanks for helping us inaugurate this new idea.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
the honor, Dale.
Bless
Thank
you all. Friends, our guests today have been Dr. Gregory Penn, Dr. Margaret Stevens, and Mr. John Niendorf. Will you affirm this with the panel and with me? Now, this is the same affirmation I shared with you yesterday, but we felt that it was so appropriate. The answers I need to know are revealed to me by my inner teacher. The answers I need to know are revealed to me by my inner teacher. Friends, we trust the ideas we've shared with you will be helpful to you, but your answers, the answers you need for your highest good, will come to you from your inner teacher if you will turn within and lovingly be open and receptive to those answers. It's always a joy to be with you. Join us for our next program, will you? And continue to tell your friends and neighbors about There Is a Way. We'll see you on our next program.